Hello and welcome back. So, after looking around, I found at sacredtext.com, sacred-text, the Seneca Indian Myths by Jeremiah Curtin, 1922. 500-page book, which has a bunch of myths. And I just started looking at it, looked down, and I noticed I saw this one too. So the Whirlwind and Panther, the great spirit overpowers the cold and frost of winter, Stonecoats, Man-Eater and his brother Whirlwind. So there's this whirlwind aspect. Okay. And then I found this one that I started to read. A battle between frost and whirlwind. Wherever that may be. Here it is. And that one I started to read, so let's go ahead and check it out. Whirlwind, an old woman, the oldest of all her people, lived in the forest with her two grandchildren, a boy and a girl. One day, when the grandmother was out digging roots, a frost and great cold woman came to the cabin, picked up the little girl, and after speaking kindly, telling her she was a nice little thing, swallowed her. Frost and great cold swallowed her. It makes me think of the movement of a glacier already. Then she began to talk to the boy. Sitting down by him, she said, "Get on my back, and I will carry you to where your grandmother is digging roots." Again, with roots and digging at the roots, or digging roots, the boy did as the frost and great cold woman told him to, but he was frightened, and he clung to her so tightly that he became fastened to her back and couldn't get off, though he tried hard. So, like an advancing glacier that some boy becomes attached to when riding on the back of because he got on top of it, whereas the girl got swallowed up, maybe went under it, like positive, negative. The frost and great cold woman's gonna, I have no idea how to say that. Gnoska? I don't know what that N is. Started off but in a different direction from where the boy's grandmother was. When the boy told her she was going the wrong way, she said, "No, I am not. We will soon come to where she is at work." The woman went far into the forest, and the boy began to cry for his grandmother. He cried so hard and loud that the frost and cold woman told him to get off her back. She didn't like to hear him cry, and she thought it was best to eat him at once. So, like, advancing glacier maybe has something on its back that it would prefer to have underneath it, so it's not like moving with it as much. It's just like consumed and underneath the current flow, maybe. It's like weird having this object on top of the current flow energetically. He couldn't get off, and she couldn't put her hands around to pull him off. Another aspect of advancing glacier is maybe it can't really remove things off top of it that are on top of it, nor turn her head to bite him. Advancing glaciers are notoriously like straight. They prefer straight paths and don't bend as easily as like a river does. As flowing water versus frozen water moving. Flowing water versus flowing ice. Glacier. When the boy saw that she couldn't harm him if he stayed where he was, he clung all the tighter and stopped trying to get away. When the grandmother came home and found that the boy and girl were not in the cabin, she was frightened and began to search for them. After a while, she came upon the tracks of the frost and cold woman, and then she knew who had stolen the children. came upon the tracks and knew who had stolen the children, because the tracks demonstrate what it is, and maybe also we'll see other things. She followed the tracks, thinking she would soon overtake the thief, since it is flowing ice. The woman was tired of the boy and tried in every way to free herself of him. She rubbed him against hickory trees and against rocks. He said, "Oh, I like that, rub harder." She stopped then and traveled on. The grandmother followed in the form of a whirlwind. Frost and Cold Woman said to the boy, your grandmother is coming. She will kill us both. Get off my back." The boy kept still, didn't answer. The woman looked around for a hiding place and found one in a deep ravine. It made me think of the Great Lakes, particularly the Superior Lake, maybe. She dug a hole, went into it, and covered herself with the earth that slipped down from above. That made me think of the hole that was here, like all of the Michigan mitten is post-Earth expansion, so forming like 450 to some other time. Let's just pull it up. Michigan geological map. Images. Doesn't say age. We need some ages. By let's say Devonian and Cretaceous. I don't know. Something of that nature. Okay. Purple, Devonian. Yellow, Missouri, Mississippian? I think that's Mississippian. I mean, I don't know, Missouri-ipian. Okay. Pennsylvanian, Jurassic. So all of the mitten is formed in the time frame of, as well as this portion here, and Cambrian. Basically up to here. All of this formed after the flood began, after the Earth's expansion process began. So that strongly suggests there was like a moving, something that moved here and then sunk down deeply enough that Earth moved atop it. Like carved, etched in deeply enough that Earth then laid atop it. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. When she heard Whirlwind coming nearer and nearer, she asked the boy, "Can you hear your grandmother coming?" He didn't answer. When Whirlwind, I'm not sure what to make of things of that nature. When Whirlwind, or the boy even yet, when Whirlwind rushed over the place where the woman lay, the boy shouted to her. She heard him, and changing her course, came straight to where they were, which to me is like an energetic exchange. I mean, even though she's grandmother, she's still a woman, so maybe it's like a boy attraction to the woman, like energetically, the whirlwind woman. That coupled them in a way that drew this whirlwind in. So I'm thinking like whirlwind, like something, some energetic source coming from over here that's hot, basically, which draws to mind something I just posted on Twitter with the Finger Lakes, where there's this. Don't know, I think I've talked about this, but on top of this, we're basically in this time frame, and this time frame at least, there's a river system that basically goes this way, and it's, I guess, this way according to this, and this way, I don't know. I haven't looked at the paper that thoroughly, but definitely empties over here. Also, I found zircons from Canada, like over here, all over the place. So, from the Canadian Shield. So, that means there's some kind of exchange going back. But anyway, this river system goes this way, generally speaking, and then it goes over here, and then there's just this branch going this way. That strongly suggests like this goes across, and more so, like there's more detail. Like I was thinking this goes this way, for instance. Here's that flame thing that has a tributary that feeds in here, tributary feeding in here, but then like it feeds down this way too, which then continues across this way into this region, feeds in here, whereas this one feeds over here. But then this right here, this region as well as over here, is very much where Lake Agassiz and these other, there's Fort McMurray, interestingly, which is where some oil sands from all over the place, from the Canadian Shield, from the Appalachians, Grenville, Orogeny, and possibly the Cordilleran, and possibly the Rockies are over there. So at least like over here got over there somewhere, somehow. Strongly suggestive of a like circulating current, not just a current, the flow like a river, but a circulation where there's an inlet, outlet, and cycle to it, and not just like one way, where it's literally cycling. So my thought is that this is basically a current flow this way, generally across here as well. So there is a current going this way off of a like early phase, maybe grandmother, mother. I don't know why. I don't know. Just thinking something of that nature would be interesting. But going this way, there's something going this way and then going out this way. That's a current flow, though. So this current maybe goes this way, over here, this way, but also down and around, and interacts with the glacier advancing in a way where it becomes basically something of this nature. I don't know, where a whirlwind comes along and follows the track, like follows the track this way, like right in to the boundary that this thing, this glacier advancing, etched into the surface there initially, and then Earth went atop it, and then in comes this current at 65 million that then heats it up, influence it in ways to cause which is actually the Younger Dryas boundary, to cause the Younger Dryas boundary effects. When Whirlwind rushed over the place where the woman lay, the boy shouted to her. She heard him, and changing her course, came straight to where they were. When she asked the boy if he was there, the woman told him to keep still, but he called out, "I am here." Whirlwind blew the earth from the hiding place and shouted, I guess the boy's name, get off of the frost and cold woman's back. That instant, so shouted, although the earth from the hiding place is possibly relating to like surrounding earth. I wonder if the boy is relating to Hawaii, because sometimes I see weird locations around here that look like it might have even somehow went through here. Maybe it was here. This is definitely the location that goes here, up this way and down this way, I think. Across there, possibly over here. I think over here, though. Let's see. There it is, yeah. Down through there. So the track goes right to there. But then this hot, like, eddy comes along and releases the boy from the frost woman's back. And the boy slipped off and went among the rocks. Whatever the boy may be. The old woman hurled stones at the frost woman, tore off her clothes, and killed her. So, like, this current flowing, bringing material is not just not just water, but also drift stones, maybe. I think that's what they're called. No, what are they called? Stones left by glaciers. Name. Radix. Not exactly, but pretty much. Like maybe the erratics have also a lot to do with the current, where enough current was flowing in that it was producing eddies that then were like bringing stones inward, because this one sends stones outward, but it's also the glacier. Maybe the eddies bring stones inward and like attack inwardly. I don't know. Kind of makes sense to me, actually. Then she took her grandson and started for home. On the way, she said to him, "Never let yourself be treated in that manner again. Never let anyone abuse you. You can conquer everybody if you use your power, for you are of the Whirlwind family." The boy. Still don't know what to make of the boy exactly. If any of this makes sense. If this fits, I have no idea what to make of the boy, even so. The old woman stayed at home for a time, caring for her grandson. Meanwhile, stayed at home for a while, so maybe like a current flowed here, an eddy flowed here a while that melted the glaciers back as things drained. Meanwhile, some of the Frost Woman's people found her trail and followed it, so more glaciers advanced and followed it till they came to where her body was. So another glaciation that advanced to this region, like there was the list of glaciation events or something like that. The more recent ones. Here we go. Wisconsin glaciation. And then, like, these ones, maybe. I don't know. Whichever ones are more recent. Let's see. Let's go to present. It's not the best list, I guess. Wisconsinian. And then Illinoisan. I know there's multiple, like 4 at least. Uh, let's just see. Two related movements have been termed Wisconsin: early Wisconsin and late Wisconsin. Early Wisconsin was the bigger of the two and extended further west and south. It retreated an unknown distance before halting. During this period of quiet, the glacial deposits were eroded and weathered, like rocks thrown at them, as well as like the grandmother. This first Wisconsin period erased all the Illinoisan glacial topography that extended over. The late Wisconsin ice sheet extended more towards the west than the earlier movements. So, mind you, this is the singular woman. Let's keep going. Some of the Frost Woman's people found her trail and followed it till they came to where they came. So more than the woman, but multiple, like squad. Like they advanced further because they had more. They asked who had killed her, and her spirit answered, "Whirlwind killed me." Right away. So like hot and cold battling, which I really think is what's happening in essence. Like the hot or cold's over here, hot's over here, the separator region of like lukewarm, maybe, where then exchange is happening across the separator of hot flowing this way over into the glaciers, melting them, and heat exchanging the heat from this area over to this area because it's not stable. So whirlwind is kind of like the hot water that's flowing in eddies, and so whirlwind. Right away, the Frost men decided to kill old woman Whirlwind. Whirlwind, out on one of her journeys, discovered their plans. She went home and said to her grandson, "We must get your sister out of the Frost woman's stomach. She is sitting there and crying for me." They set out, and when they reached the place where the body lay, the old grandmother built a fire and began to burn tobacco, saying, "This is what we like. This is what we like." I'm not sure what to make of this, but built a fire. So like maybe it was really hot water to a point where, like, when the woman, the grandmother came, she brought a lot of heat to a point where it was smoking, like enough to melt glaciers heavily to break out any like other whirlwinds. I'm thinking like here's a whirlwind, here's a whirlwind, here's a whirlwind. Possibly others, like here, this structure that maybe has some sort of whirlwind to it, like this generally. Although this goes above and down and over that way. This, I think, goes this way. She burned half a pouch full and then used this and pushed the smoke toward the body, repeating, "This is what we like." Then she called, "My grandchild, come out of the Frost woman's body." When the girl didn't come, the old woman said to her grandson, "We must have people come and help us. We have many relatives, uncles, aunts, and cousins, we will call them." Then she called each relative by name, one after another they came. They built a fire at the Frost woman's head and burned tobacco. So there was hot and smoke at the Frost woman's head. I don't know, maybe I don't know if there's any like volcanism in this area at that general time frame, especially. This is what we like. Okay. When the last one had thrown in tobacco, the girl, panting for breath, came out and asked, "How long have I been here?" She was very weak. They gave her tobacco smoke, and she inhaled it till she gained strength. Then all whirlwinds went home. So, like, inhaling energy to become a whirlwind, like it was a weak whirlwind because of the being consumed by the glacier, but it was like still a system over here. Like this glacier, maybe here is where it's consuming, like it comes over here and like consumes this nucleus of water based, like a whirlwind there, but it froze over top of the whirlwind and like paused it, so like this things weren't stable anymore because this whirlwind wasn't whirlwinding, so it needed that system to be stable, or it wasn't doing whatever exactly it was doing that because of the freezing of the nucleus. I don't know. When the old woman and her grandchildren had been at home some time, a frost woman came to the cabin. She talked pleasantly, found out that there were only 3 persons there, and left, thinking it would be a small task to kill them. After the woman had gone, Whirlwind said to her children, "We are in trouble now. A great number of those people will come against us. They have assembled somewhere nearby." So maybe like the cold reached in, and then like it meant that the cold was gonna like flow in, following behind, like ants, almost like the energy is searching some channel outlet like an ant, and just like reaches it. And in order for the system to recognize that the pathway for like relieving pressure is there, it needs to actually return back to like its brain and communicate, and then march forward again, so it like retreats temporarily and then comes back in full force. After the woman, okay, so when the struggle begins, I don't know that we will be able to come home again. She went out, and like the whirlwinds will just like that will be the end of all of it, because the whirlwinds and the cold frost people will also like battle to an equilibrium where they're all neutralized. She went out and called the girl. The girl asked, "Grandmother, what are you doing?" "I am calling our relatives." Went out and called relatives. "I'm calling our relatives," answered the old woman. So maybe when the cold went through, it found this channel to like take over in a similar way. The systems over here are like, wait a minute. They found a channel to take over. And it doesn't want to die out either, so it like rallies the troops also to like defend the channel, and it becomes like a 2 chakras interacting kind of place. It is kind of chakra like the way it protrudes over here, goes across and then down, and maybe across there with these drumlins. Each one of you must have a big round stone to strike with. Round stone, which water round stones, where glaciers do not really. They had just picked up the stones when the frost people began to come. So maybe the water in its excitement starts to pick up more debris and stones, larger material, which then helps it like sandpaper, or like just helps the water abrasively like push back the glaciers. that were advancing. They had just picked up the stones when there were thousands and thousands of them. So if we think about just all the advancing like protrusions of the glaciers, and maybe lagging behind intrusions of the glacier. I don't know if it has like upward and downward, like positive, negative, male, female. They had just picked up, blah, blah. The whirlwinds were frightened when they saw how strong the enemy was. That's a big ass glacier. So condensate, you're saying? We're getting attacked. It's like the old woman said, "We must separate and fight singly. Keep the stones in your hands. Be firm and have faith that you will kill one man with each blow you strike." The whirlwinds went in different directions, and the frost people chased them. So if like the whirlwinds, maybe they were a little more concentrated because the pressures were beginning to be relieved at that time. Like initially they were much more concentrated, but then the earth started to expand more so, and so pressure relieved where the eddies spread out more so, and in so doing they lost some of the energy in their current flows, so they were not as able to keep like their retreating ground hot and water like, so they lost ground to as they redistributed. The glaciers were able to take over some by chasing them. The whirlwinds struck whenever they had the chance and kept retreating. They went up a high mountain, fighting as they went. So a high mountain, maybe relating to here. Let me see. Just generally, okay. If it was more recent, that would be interesting. Although I'm not sure. When did it uplift? When did uplift? Okay, wait. Okay, so maybe that fits it. Whirlwinds went in different directions, chased them, kept retreating until they went up a high mountain or like into the mountains, and became basically like a high mountain up here where they were just against this current, retreated to the far corner. The old woman said, "When we all reach the top, we will go down a short distance on the other side. When the frost people come to the top, we will strike them on the east and on the west. Some of us will get behind them and drive them over the mountain and into the deep ravine on the other side. They will die there, for a river runs through the ravine and they cannot cross it." Another maybe this river, like this flow that's running here, like they can't go across here. So even if they advance to here, they can't cross it to get further in advancement. I don't know exactly how. Glacial maximum. According to this one, I'm just picking the one that goes furthest. Hard to say, really. I mean, that looks like that one. That looks like it too. Let's see. Right. above it. So like, based on that, to like advancing to about here. Pushed up against here, river runs, so maybe they cannot cross it. If they advance to here, maybe this river, like out here coming this way, but, or one going generally across this way. Or out here. I just don't know exactly where flows were going. Let's check out that map. This river, maybe. This river, the Colorado River, or California River at that time, cannot cross this river. They pretty much advanced to here, though, according to that image that I was just looking at. Very close to it. Like, relatively. Especially if that river is much wider. It fans out a bit. I'd say that's probably the river then. Come to the top, we will strike them on the east and west. It doesn't quite fit. They went up a high mountain fighting as they went. The old woman said, when we all reach the top, we will go down a short distance on the other side. So maybe reach the top, go down a short distance on the other side. They will die there, for a river runs through the ravine. Alright, wait. When the frost people come to the top, we will strike them on the east and on the west. Some of us will get behind them and drive them over the mountain into the deep ravine on the other side. They will die there for a river. Okay. So, on the east, advancing this way, and then like hot water's coming out this way. Possibly from here even. Like if this is swirling, putting out a current this way. This one's going from the, or maybe from the east and, or west and east. Something. Okay. Let's keep going. Whirlwind struck whenever they had a chance and kept retreating. Okay. The frost people came to the top of the mountain, and seeing nothing of the whirlwinds, thought they had escaped. They stood and listened. So, like, as the water maybe came back over the top of the mountains, it literally retreated over it enough where it was not actually, like, connected anymore. Like, the water, there was no water present. Relatively. Not enough to be, like, more than, like, rain looking. Like rivers, full bodies, an entire body of water moving as one unit, basically, not present. They stood and listened. Soon they heard wind on each side of them. Wind, so the water came down here and then started to swirl enough that it sent like currents, including winds. The sound grew louder and louder, and right away the Whirlwind family struck them on both sides, and uniting in the rear struck them from behind. So it's like advancing this way. It advanced so far that these ones united again, maybe, in the rear, and it basically cut it in half, like divided its troops. Where they then flanked this like chunk of it to take that out enough to like reduce the strength of the advancing glacier in the process. So fierce was the attack and power of the whirlwinds that they tore out all of the trees by their roots, swept the earth from the top of the mountain, and hurled trees and earth into the ravine and river below. Not sure what to make of that type of thing. The frost people were piled up like rocks in the river. Is that what that is? Yeah, frost people were piled up like rocks in the river along the bank, so like pieces of glacier. The whirlwinds were dancing and rejoicing on the top of the mountain when the old woman said, We have hurled our enemies into the ravine. Now we will finish them. Half of you go along the ridges east of the river, and the other half go along the western ridges and blow all the trees and rocks and earth into the ravine. They went, and when they came together again, maybe ravine, even over here, like going through here and out this way, I don't know. But I'm thinking like currents coming generally out this way, and maybe even out here, but out this way, and then currents coming out this way are like two separate sides. They went, and when they came together again, they had stripped the mountain spurs naked and filled up the ravine. The river had no outlet. It became a great lake, and ever after was called the grave of the... Okay, so in that instance, it really makes me think that this one maybe is the grave of the frost people. Mm-hmm. Oh, volcanic. I don't know how recent. Black lava flows when Portage Lake volcanics. Green, I guess. Okay, there's definitely volcanics. I just know that this dates back pretty far, so here we go, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing grave of... I guess it could be here. Where are the most glacial erratics? What the... I showed a lot over there. Okay, this is pretty much out there. Nothing pointing to a really large quantity. Maybe here, I guess, if I, instead of them running over here, they went up this mountain and over the mountain, and then the glaciers went out to the river that was flowing this way before the earth was fully expanded. It was very river-like, maybe. And maybe that's related to this. Glaciers like flowed this way. I don't know if there's evidence of that. Doesn't really look like it. In the same way as like here, there'd be like this way though. I'd imagine something. Unless maybe over here. Against the mountain up over. Maybe there was a whirlwind that was here. Like connected energetically to this one turning. This one's turning, I think, clockwise. This one's going counterclockwise so that their boundary aligns and then just separates, although this doesn't really resemble that. It would probably have more of a sharp bend. Not sure what to make of why they're not distinguishable. There's no distinguishable boundary between them. Maybe because it's not fully formed. Like a child, in a way. And then maybe that had some kind of center there, though. That they could approach and get over here, and it just like melted the glaciers as they moved, and then it just like had a current flowing this way, though. Generally, I think these are much more likely to be related, though, to the map here. Much more likely to be related to this, going this way, over here, down this way. Okay, so that was interesting. I don't know what to make of it. It seems plausible to be closely related to those types of topics, but I certainly don't have all the connections to really make out what's quite being said if it is related. Nor do I really fully comprehend whatsoever how this would be like understood knowledge. Like at any point. How someone, let's say there was a flood, someone lives through the flood. Unless they physically were like in a ark that was like a spaceship and watched it all happen from above. This looks kind of like a frog, like a leg, an arm, body, torso. Like near the legs, real thin. I don't know. Just also looks like a hand doing this, and right next to it, there's a hand doing this. I think there was a frog, right? In this one, frog. I don't think this one was that related to that region, though. Okay. Off to bed. See y'all later. Peace.